What's up?
Not much. It's the second virtual meetup.
We're here again.
Yaki
Wow.
Dunitz, Jason Gilbert, conversation designer at CoCoHub. And of course we have our good dear friend, AnnA. Should we say hi?
AnnA Banana?
Alexa? AnnA Banana.
Hello, darling. I'm glad you stopped by.
Oh, darling.
This social distancing is driving me crazy.
Oh, darling, who are you kidding? No one came within 10 feet of you before the coronavirus, right?
No, that's not true. That's mean, actually.
It's a body odor thing if you ask me. I'm just kidding. Sheesh. So, you know, I've always considered you to be the sun in my life, darling.
Oh, wow. That's nice of you to say that to me.
What a flip.
Yeah.
So, you know why I consider you to be the sun in my life?
Why?
Nah, she'll stab me now.
Let's just say, you remind me of a red dwarf. The sun is a huge ball of hot gas kinda like you, right?
No, stop it. This is mean. My friends are watching this. Parents are watching
Don't be
this.
so sensitive. We all know you're full of hot air. And finally, like the sun, stay at least 92,935,700 miles away from me, okay?
I'll do my best. I'll try.
So, can you stay 92,935,700 miles away from me?
Yes.
Not an inch closer. But seriously, social distancing is important. Stay safe,
True.
stay healthy and stay at home, humans. Now, I'm going on break. See you fools later.
Thank you. Alexa, stop.
There was a problem communicating with the requested skill.
She's not as cooperative as she used to be. I don't know, man. She has her own opinions on things. It's hard.
You lost control, huh?
Yeah.
Well, she didn't get the virus.
No.
No.
No, she's definitely afraid of viruses.
She's
though.
immune.
Well, the certain kind of viruses.
Yeah, right.
So, Yaki,
Yeah.
let's talk conversation design.
Let's.
What are you working on these days?
I promised new components last time we spoke.
You did, and I'm glad you're sticking to your promise.
And I've been thinking, what are we lacking? What category of components are still missing from our CoCoHub, from our component marketplace? And the answer is 3 letters. IoT. Internet of Things.
Amazing.
Okay, we forgot, it's been a buzzword that in recent months I've heard less of, but it's all over, it's all around us. Some of my appliances are already connected to small smart home applications that I run from my phone, so I can turn on the garden lights in the evening from my phone, or set the timer or whatever. So I'm even using it on a daily basis, and other people must do it too. And whoever has a digital assistant in his home can probably turn on and off the lights. I'm sure that some Alexa or Google Home users do turn off the heater, the boiler, the lights, the air conditioner by commanding the assistant.
Well, it's amazing because I always forget, or I think I forget to turn something off. Like I leave the house and I'm
Well,
like,
that's easy. That's
did
easy
I
to
leave
do.
the oven on? And then I wait for the fire department or for,
So every existing system on the market, and they're really cheap already, can do it for you. All you need to do is set the timers on all the switches to turn off at a certain time, and they just turn off at a certain time. You don't even have to have an on command. If they're on, they will be turned off at that time. So one of the components that we added to the marketplace is set timer.
set timer. Sounds like a
So the
great
system
component.
knows, or the component gets as a parameter the table of switches, okay? And the component interviews the user when he wants the switches on a daily basis and off. And his answers get transmitted back to the calling bot, again as a parameter. And therefore, setting the timers can now be done conversationally instead of going into the application, going into the settings and finding the right place and doing it, and that's where half the people fail. So if you are now selling the new type of appliance, you probably should add to it a conversational component enabling the switch or the home application, smart home application, to understand setting timers conversationally. And the same goes for adding a switch. Let's say you have a system and you want to add one more room or one more light fixture or lamp or whatever. You want to add a switch to a system. You can do that.
Do you want to try and demo it for us and show us what it's like, or is it not ready yet? If it's not ready,
it's in the I can try. All
right, let's try. This is a live demo.
I like these challenges.
Yeah, let's see.
Do you want to set up a smart home system?
In fact, I do. Yes. Yes, I do.
Then you must have a list of devices, each with a switch code. How many devices, switches in this list?
One.
Good. Now, I need the name of the first device or room, like bedroom, heater, etc., followed by the switch code.
Bedroom.
Which switch should I connect to bedroom?
S1.
Creating device bedroom connected to S1. Your new system is now set up and ready.
That's pretty good.
Well, it's not my fault, It's
The technical issues, but the
it's
actual
the
component
phone
itself works great.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. Let me see if I can set a timer or something.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, Yaki, as usual, I have some tips for these amazing, beautiful, lovely conversation designers that are watching. And I thought maybe we could go over them again, you and I. It's a different set.
Ah, okay. It's not the same 5.
Not the same 5 because it's boring. This is actually 5 ways to give your characters part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2.
De Oux.
De Oux.
Okay.
So, and it's a bit misleading because it's not just ways to give your bot character, but it's ways to design certain things within your flow to make the character more human-like, make the conversation more human-like.
Go for it.
That's the idea. 5 ways, 5 tips. I'll try to get through these quickly. And a lot of these I learned from you, so you'll be able to probably expand on them a bit more.
All right.
So, accordion, kimono wearing accordion man, please switch slides. Okay, so this slide's the same. It's my
you're a big shot.
No, but
We
it's
know.
like, what have you done for me lately? Nothing, man. There's nothing in 2020. I gotta update this thing.
Get out of the house.
Get out of the house. Okay, so let's skip this slide because it's embarrassing. Prompt, right?
Okay.
Prompts. Now, we used to have this thing when we did the Miss Piggy bot back in 2015 for Disney. We found that a clever prompt can make all the difference in an experience. So, for instance, you could have a prompt like yes or no.
No, wait. Explain first what do you mean by a prompt.
The prompt means when the bot prompts the user with a question because they want to continue the conversation
And expects particular responses which correspond to buttons. These buttons we hate, which really represent the options that the content writer foresaw as answers to the question. Okay? So these are the options, the obvious options. Okay?
Yeah.
The prompt is designed to get one of these obvious options.
Right.
The trick in chatbots is cover the rest.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and the idea is if you can create a clever enough
But if
prompt.
the prompt is good enough,
There you go.
then you lead the user into phrasing his answer in a way you will understand.
Exactly. And so what we learned with our Miss Piggy is we had something called the award show question. And it was, if you could attend any award show with me, which one would you attend? And the beauty of that was that users could say anything they wanted. Because how many award shows are there out there, really? I mean, we did a data set. There was like 35, including the Razzies and all these obscure award shows.
Yeah.
So whatever they said, we had a specific answer for that award show. And the funny thing is that everyone answered the question because it's something that it's not invasive. It doesn't hurt your privacy.
If the question is clear and phrased in a way that is not masked and not hiding in the response and in the input, but it's just the answer you want, then that's why the prompt is so important.
Yeah. And so, of course, you could do
So
very
give us
binary
an example of a bad prompt.
Well, a bad prompt would be, okay, and you leave the user with, do you want to do this, okay? Okay. So it's not like you give them many options, or a prompt that ends with yes or no. Do you like ice cream? Yes or no. As opposed to what flavors of ice cream do you like?
What you mean is closed questions, not open questions.
Not open questions.
Right.
Once you get into open questions, it's harder to...
Don't give me a summary about, but pick an option up. Or do you prefer A or B?
Right, but you want the user to feel that they're the ones dictating the conversation and they're not being led, and so that was...
Okay, gotcha.
That's the importance of a clever prompt. Mm-hmm. So Miss Piggy, and you can see here, there's she asks here 2 questions, and the responses are funny. I can't see them from here, so we're going to move on to the next slide. Kimono Man, can you make it a little bit bigger on the screen? I can't see anything, Kimono Man. So the second thing is fantasy. And what I mean by fantasy is, let the user live out next one. Sorry, Kimono Man. Okay. Let the user live out a fantasy. In this case, a few years ago, we built a bot for Disney, for Avatar, the amusement park. And you basically you went online and messaged, and the representative was an ace representative who was on a different planet, and he was trying to convince you to travel to Disneyland. And so he talked to you as though he were on a different planet. And users loved it because it gave them a sense of, okay, well, this is immersive, this is fun, this is beyond just, this forces me to imagine myself in the situation. So putting the user in, letting them explore their imagination through the bot sometimes is a good way to let them...
I don't see how this fits in more practical use cases. If you are marketing something like Disney Park or Pandora like we did, or other movies, fantasy movies, then fantasy fits there.
Yeah.
But if you take a use case of a bot representing a large telecommunication company, where would you fit the fantasy there?
Where in the world would you like to go? Just the ability to, let the user roam with his imagination or her imagination to places through the bot, I think is something that I've found users love it. It's like being in a theater. They're actors. You're looking at actors, but yet the fact that you're willing to suspend your disbelief and enjoy the experience. And I think a lot of that comes down to how you establish trust at the very early part of a conversation, empathy from the bot, but also creating an immersive world where the user is a part of that world sometimes gives them a sense of this is...
It belongs more at the stage when you design, when you approach the use case and you start designing, that's when you have to decide about things like that, which are very, very basic, because I can't really see a practical utilitarian bot doing something.
Well, here's the thing: he was a call center representative, but he was a call center representative on the planet Pandora.
But it was Disney.
But it's Disney, yeah, I know. But still, you can put your customer service agent as a bot on a different planet and live that, and then all of a sudden it's cooler. It's not like...
But this would be great if we were promoting like a digital agency or something, or a creative.
But no, but even enterprises, they need to be entertaining. They need to be fun, Yaki. They can't just have a boring non-personality bot. Like if you give the bot some kind of personality, some kind of fantasy that they're in. I'm not just talking to a customer service.
Like the intern in the which represents the company, and
yeah,
right,
exactly.
Artie,
who makes mistakes, who's funny and stuff like that. It just,
I got you. Okay.
That's it. Yeah, maybe it's not a good one. Well,
keep going.
Part 2 is, sequels are never as good as the first one. Look at The Godfather Part 3. That was just a disaster. Okay, the 1, 2, 3 method is what you taught me, Yaki.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you're making an all-domain bot, users will ask something, and you may or may not have an answer for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that first you say, okay, I don't know what that means. Do you want to teach me what that means? Or, and then you as the bot developer put a one-liner in there answering that question because no one else has asked it up until this point, so maybe it's not something that a lot of people ask. And then you start seeing that other people are hitting that one-liner, and you're like, wait a second, okay, I'm going to add a follow-up to that one-liner. And if you see after that users are actually following up to the follow-up, you realize, okay, well, I have a conversation here. And so my initial one-liner...
This is how a component comes into the world.
This is how a component is born. Exactly. The 1, 2, 3 method. And you taught me that.
So what you're saying is basically a bot starts with a one-liner, which is a fixed answer to a non-input. Then the bot evolves a little bit, and then some users continue after this one-liner in a certain way, so you add up a follow-up answer to this one-liner.
Yeah, one or two follow-ups. Yeah.
And then you have this third one, and by that time, it's worthwhile already to take this whole thing as a context and cover it. So that this particular context, instead of being just, okay, I got what you asked for, here's the answer and finished, you go into a process, which is a component, and that's a whole field that you have to cover, which is this context. This is the way. This is important. This is a way to evolve your bot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's what components are doing basically for the users is that we're taking that step forward and we're already building the conversation template based on.
Right.
So the 1, 2, 3 method, I think it always works. And I owe that to you. So, okay. Kimono Man, how are we doing on time, Kimono Man?
We are exactly 19 minutes in.
Okay, filler words. This is especially on voice, I found. When you add things like and things like that, all of a sudden the bot becomes, in a weird way, it becomes more human-like.
I like HMMM. HMMM.
Yeah.
I used to have a bot read out loud all the conversations in the office. And I had a lot of HMMMs in my responses. And the way that the text-to-speech was interpreting the automatic voice was HMMM. So instead of I now say HMMM. HMMM.
So we saw this a lot we did the meditation bot for Skype, and we talked about that last month. And a lot of times when you use a real voice artist, you can get them to do the and the O's and between words. Because a robot would never do that. They would give you the
It will.
It will eventually if it's...
Look, already now when you use avatars, and we are not using it in this particular talk, but we have and we will, you already see that it adds these gestures and hesitations, and if you want to code them into your responses, it starts to be possible. So you use special signifiers in the response text so that the text-to-speech and the accompanying video will act accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in the wind, it's coming.
I hope so, because to me that always felt much more human-like when you have... Because when we're talking, you and I'm doing gestures and I'm talking and I'm expressing myself with my body.
You were talking with Pepper a lot as AnnA, and she has such a limited range of expression. And still, you got so excited about it. So it doesn't take much.
Well, we only incorporated a few, but she actually has over 150 things that we could have put into Pepper. So she has quite a few, actually. But I was very excited about the hug because I don't get any hugs at home anymore. I've been married for 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And now with the corona, you can't hug anyone anymore anyway. So it's like, what happens to people who like to hug other people? How are they
they
dealing
have to
with?
find another hobby.
Yeah, it's weird because
You can hug trees.
hug trees, but yeah, I guess
Tree hugging.
Still
you
hug
can-
pets.
hug
Or
pets.
pets, a pet.
Thank you, Kimono Man.
No, but tigers in the corona.
Yeah, you don't hug the bats or the pangolins, but you can hug dogs and cats.
Yes. Don't hug pangolin.
Don't hug pangolin.
No.
No. That's it.
Can we have the next slide?
Sorry, yeah, next slide. Okay, and this is another thing that you taught me, and I think it's pretty basic, but I put it in there because some people don't realize that this is even an option, is alternate responses. If users say something, you give them one answer, and if they say something similar, you can give them
Or the same thing, maybe.
same thing. You have 3, 4, 5, 6 different alternates. So if 6 different users ask the same question, they get 6. Potentially, if you do it randomly, they get 6 different answers. That
Well, let me tell you something about that. That's true, and most platforms stress the need and the ability because it's very easy to implement. Problem is, it's not so important that 6 users get 6 different answers. It's not so important. It's very important that one user will not get 6 identical answers. So, if you have 6 answers, one will be the best, probably, or one of the best. And everybody should get that one. After he got that response, you have 2 options. You can exhaust it. You can decide, okay, that's it. It was used in this conversation, it will not be used again. Or you can add alternates. So if it comes up the second time, then the second response will be issued. But you have to pick one of the 2. Because if you keep repeating the same response to the same user, it's like being able to cheat all the people all the time. You can't do that. You can cheat part of the people all the time, or all the people part of the time. But so you can use a single response in most cases if the user is not likely to get to the same place in the content twice in the same conversation. In cases that he does, then you have to put as many alternate responses as the times that you think the user may get to that point. But you don't have to treat different users as if they speak to each other because they don't.
Right, but sometimes we've seen this, that they post screenshots. Sometimes users, especially the bots that are more popular.
Yeah, but to cover that incident of people posting that.
Yeah, everyone's saying, hey, look, it says the same thing. But if
If it says the same thing in the right place for everyone, it's not so bad.
Not so
Guys, use alternate responses. I agree.
Thank you, Yaki, for agreeing. No, I think it's important. It's also.
I'll tell you when is the time to add the second response. On the feedback loop, when you check the logs, when you encounter the case where it hurts you, either because someone posted, or in the case that someone really hit it twice, then you add the alternate one, not before. Because I've seen content, maybe some of it was written by you years ago, of new components that were built with 20 alternate responses. The chances of hitting one are slim, and you have 20 of them.
It's because it's true. It's true. Sometimes you don't need alternate responses for responses that never get hit or used,
or even if you're sure they're only going to get hit once because you exhaust this path anyway, and it's not going to come back again.
That's true.
What do you need the second, third, and fourth one?
That's true. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing up one of my shortcomings in front of everyone.
Everyone, yeah. But it's not
thousands of people. Last time I think we had hundreds of thousands. I think this time we're near millions at this point.
You're talking about corona victims. That's a different number. That's a different number.
Okay, they're not why. Okay, so no, but we do have
enough. But the good ones, we have
quality. Every single one of those. Every single one of them is worth at least 10.
The good ones. Good. Keep going.
So.
Time is running out.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think Kimono Man, can you see if there's another slide on there? I don't think there's another slide. I do 5. It's like 5 is a good number for slides, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think we're done.
No, the slide with the credentials and.
We did that one at the beginning with the credentials and everything, and before Kimono Man comes back, we didn't talk last week about the feedback loop. Do you want to go into that?
We promised something about.
We did. We promised something about the feedback.
You know what we'll do? Our next talk will be dedicated to feedback loop, and we'll bring examples of iterations of what can happen in a feedback loop. How's that as a
Compromise?
topic?
Yeah. That sounds good. I think
Because we don't have time right now. If we have two more guests, we don't have time
true.
for an in-depth analysis of the feedback loop.
I haven't even mentioned the fact that we have amazing special guests this week. We have, first of all, we have a former colleague and good friend of ours, Eytan Weinstein, who's the lead conversation designer at Intuition Robotics, and they're working on the humanoid robot Elli Q. So he's going to come in here, and he actually has a demo for us of Elli Q, and he's going to show that, and we're going to talk to him about how he got into conversation design and all that. And then we have Maaike from Convo Cat, who has just finished a component. And maybe we'll talk to her about the component and talk to her about her background in conversation design.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Yaki, we're back, and we have a special guest with us. You might remember this guy.
Eytan, what's up?
Eytan Weinstein.
Hey
Nice
guys,
to see you.
good to be back.
Yes.
So, in case you don't know, and some of these people don't know, Eytan and I spent years together designing chatbots, and we won awards together, and Eytan is a good friend. And now he is the lead conversation designer at Intuition Robotics. So tell me a little bit about your new role and what you're doing there and about the company.
Yeah, so Intuition Robotics basically develops technology to enable the creation of digital companions, agents, if you will. And one of them is Elli Q. Elli Q is, like I said before, she's sitting right here, so she keeps waking up every time I say her name. But basically, Elli Q is a digital companion for the elderly. So she's supposed to combat the problem of loneliness in the elderly population right now in the US. She's in beta testing. And at Intuition Robotics, specifically in conversation design, we have a team of about 3 designers, but we're also working on creating tools to kind of make the process of experience creation as accessible as possible. Because we believe, in kind of making it a democratic process. So that anybody who's interested in creating an experience can.
Is there a toolkit that enables people to develop content?
So that's really the crux of it, right? Is to make, because that's exactly the problem, is bridging the gap between people who are design oriented and people who are technically oriented. I mean, I think that's always been kind of the lost in translation problem. You have people who are wonderful designers, but then they give their specs to, or they define the product and they hand it over to a developer, and somewhere along the way it gets destroyed. So we are the tools that we're making, the mindset behind them is to make them accessible to the layman. I'm not a developer. None of our conversational designers or experience designers are developers, and that's the point: is to make it as
No, wait. But I realized that your tools enables you and your team to develop using these tools. But you say that you develop tools for people that are less skilled than the 3 of you.
Well, no, I think that idea is to make it, I mean, I might have a bit more of experience, but like I said, I'm not I'm not trained in development, and I don't know Java, I don't know any coding languages, so
He barely speaks English. I mean, look at this, right?
yeah, exactly. I think the principles of conversational design will still be the foundation, so that's something that anybody will have to learn if they're designing conversation, but I don't think that the technical skills will be required. At least that's the goal.
I see. So basically, when this is ready, a layman could develop a conversation, basically.
That's the aim. Yeah.
Good luck. There is about 500 different platforms that compete in that market. Of the tools,
It's not an easy problem.
Yeah.
So Eytan, let's go back because this is a conversation design meetup. It was initially supposed to be just Tel Aviv, but because of obviously the situation, it's become global, and must be millions of people viewing right now, millions if not more, zillions.
All those fake accounts you created.
All those fake accounts that we created. So let me ask you, how did you get into conversation design? And I know the answer because we've talked about this, but the viewers might not know. What's your background? How did you get into conversation design?
He was unemployed.
Those make the best conversation designers.
That's the story. I needed a job. No, it is basically the story. It's an interesting one. Like I finished studying film and television, and I realized that I didn't really want to work in film and TV production. I did a bit after university, and I realized that it wasn't really for me. What I wanted to actually do was write. And so I had a bunch of odd writing jobs. I was even a breaking news editor for a second. And then I stumbled upon this job listing for being an interactive script writer for virtual characters. And honestly, it blew me away. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I answered the same ad, by the way. That's my origin story. You can't take my origin story, Eytan.
Hey, man, we could just switch names.
Yeah, we started like a week after each other, so
Yeah.
It's true.
So, I mean, as you know, that was in person, and I spent, I think, over 3 years, some like amazing years at in person. Yaki, you've heard of in person?
And what?
For those of you who are not in on the joke, Yaki was the owner of In Person and taught us some of what Eytan, most of what I know to be true.
Yaki and some of the other people at In Person were some of my first mentors in conversation design.
Exactly. And speaking of conversation design, since this again is focused on conversation design, what are some of the mistakes that you're seeing that conversation designers are making in their design and their flow that just are appalling to you or stand out?
So I think, I don't know if I could speak about all conversational designers. I can tell you about the mistakes that I've made in the past, and I think that we've seen. And I think one of the big mistakes is trying to cover everything. I think that initially when you go into it as like a naive young conversation designer, you think, okay, I'm going to make a bot that knows how to, it's just going to be a human, basically. It's going to be Westworld. It's going to talk about everything, and it's going to interact exactly like a human. And I think that that's not the right approach. I mean, there's a whole discussion to be had about the domain and the scope and where do you draw the lines. But I think what it gets down to is accepting fallbacks. Like even as humans, we have fallbacks, right? Like when you don't know what someone's talking about, you don't have knowledge in it, or someone's like talking to you at a really loud party and you didn't hear it, you have a fallback mechanism. So I think embracing the fallback mechanism is like the first thing I would say you have to come to terms with, and then getting clever about it and thinking about, different ways to cleverly make like
disguise the fact that you have no idea what the user just said.
Exactly. So I think if it's about kind of coming to terms with that and getting creative, and we did that with Miss Piggy, right? And with Murdoch, where we had distraction lines, I think we called them, where anytime we didn't understand something, we didn't mention the fact that we didn't understand. We just, Miss Piggy, for example, had to answer the door because her dog psychologist just showed up. And so she was immediately distracted. And the same was for Murdoch Nichols from the Gorillas. He's the bassist. So we created a bot for him, Jason and I in person. And the same, we use the same tactic, but I think it's not about like one size fits all. So, with Elli Q, for example, it's very much the opposite. I think a distraction line is the wrong way to go. It's very wrong, because we want to be honest and transparent with our users, because what we're trying to do is create a connection. So if she tries to disguise the fact that she doesn't understand, then she's going to hurt that trust. So it's all about figuring out what the right fallback is, but I think that that's one of the mistakes a lot of conversation designers make right at the beginning, is they assume I don't have to deal with fallbacks.
Can you show us a few sentences by Elli Q?
Ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Can you do that, Eytan?
I can. I actually have her right here. Let me know if you guys can see her, because I'm recording my screen. This is Elli Q,
Okay.
and behind her is. So here, let's talk to her a bit. I just want to make sure that it looks all right. There we go. Elli Q, say hello to Jason.
Hi there, Jason. I'm glad you could stop by.
Wow.
And then let's try, hold on. Elli Q, tell me a joke. Oh. Elli
She's not in
Q,
the mood.
tell me a joke.
Why did the bicycle fall over? It was too tired.
Listen, ask her
Classic.
why is 7 afraid of 8?
The 7, 8, 9.
7.
Yeah.
So here we have also what you can see right now is she's doing a silent proactive. So it's all about like the intrusiveness of the experience. Sometimes we wake up and we speak with the user, but sometimes we don't want to be that like annoying, so we just kind of silently put a suggestion on the screen. You can see these on Alexa or Google Home.
What is the difference? What are the main differences between this and Alexa or Google Home?
So let me show you what the main difference is. I think that'll be the best. If I can, I'm going to do it manually, meaning artificially. But basically, the main difference is the fact that she is proactive and not just reactive. So we define reactive as your average digital assistant will respond once you say their wake word. But Elli Q also has kind of a mind of her own, and she decides to wake up once in a while and interact. So, for example.
Sorry if I'm interrupting, but I think it's that time of day to start thinking about lunch. Have you had your lunch yet?
Yes.
That's great. Because I always forget to eat lunch, as you can tell.
I hope it was delicious. What did you have?
I had a sandwich and some salad.
Sandwich is cool, but sandwiches sound like one of the best foods. You can put anything you like in a sandwich. You could even put another sandwich in a sandwich if you're really hungry. If I remember correctly, you told me Indian is your favorite. So what is your second favorite food of all time?
One of my favorite foods is actually Italian food.
Italian food, yummy. Food from around the world is very interesting, like Italian food. My favorite Italian food is the pasta shaped like a bow tie.
Thank you.
That is very,
So-
very, very impressive, Eytan. Well done.
Can she sense, does she know that you're in the room?
So yes, she has, as you can see, two cameras right here. So she has perception, and she has a series of other sensors as well. And I hope I'm not making you guys dizzy, but down below her head, she actually has
How
touch
can I help you?
sensors, so that if you touch her, she can actually respond. And of course, she has microphones so that she can hear. So there's kind of, a plethora of sensors. But the idea is to like use the sensors you have at your disposal, right? So we might be working on, for example, where we have a collaboration with the TRI, which is the Toyota Research Institute. So when you're working on agents within a vehicle, you have many more sensors, right? You might have temperature sensors, you have, the speed, you have, what objects are around you. So it's all about kind of inputs, which with a chatbot is text, and then the output can be as multimodal. And so multimodal is kind of the different modalities that Elli Q uses to communicate. So she has her gestures, she has her screen, she has sounds.
That's amazing.
So it's all about, yeah.
Let me ask you something about the personality of Elli Q. You came into it and it was already established, or were you the one to help establish, and how would you define her character?
That's a good question. So it took us a long time to kind of figure out who Elli Q is. She was partly formulated, like the character was partly formulated when I arrived on the scene at Intuition Robotics. But I don't know if there was a concerted effort to give her a personality. There were some rough guidelines, meaning we knew that we had to be transparent with users. We knew that she needed to be, sensitive and caring, or at least try to be. But there wasn't anything really concrete. And I don't know if there is yet. I mean, it's kind of like a constant... I think it's a constant struggle to kind of figure out who your character is. I think that's true. Like when you're writing anything, characters develop. But with her, I think one of the things we realized very early on is to embrace her weaknesses. So, and I think that kind of ties into what we were talking about before. But because transparency and trust are so key to her character, because she's trying to be a companion for the elderly and help combat the loneliness that they're experiencing, we realized that we have to embrace her weaknesses, because if we try and hide them, I mean, that's what happens in relationships, right? When you try and hide,
that she cannot move, or she cannot sleep, that she cannot eat. What are the weaknesses?
So exactly. So, I mean, first of all, the fact that she can't move, the fact that she can't understand everything at the very basis of it, the fact that she is not a human and that she doesn't experience emotion and that she can't really connect with you on that very human level, right? So she doesn't have that. And I think it's important to be honest about that. So that was kind of a struggle at the beginning, because, it kind of limits you, but it was also kind of, I don't know, like freeing, to liberating, to realize it. And then it had a lot of impact on where she got to.
Great. So people that are now going into conversation design, now that you've been a conversation designer for 5 years, what would you say, what advice would you give people that are watching now, of the millions that are watching, who used to be screenwriters, used to be UX writers, and now are going into conversation design? What should they do to start?
Don't.
Send Eytan the resume.
Say what?
Send your CV.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's one of the most fascinating jobs there is out there. Like one of the most fascinating fields, really. Like it's so different and it's so dynamic and it's like right at the beginning, you're getting in on the ground floor, all those cliches. But I think that it really is one of the most fascinating fields. As far as advice, I think the number one advice I'd give is to not be afraid to like get uncomfortable with the technical side. Don't be afraid to learn a bit of Java and learn a bit of Python and I don't know, get acquainted with GitHub and understand version control and that kind of stuff. Like it's not, you don't have to take a course in it and you don't have to understand it fully. But I would say that if you really want to be at that, crossroads where conversation design is happening today, you need to be able to be comfortable with it, or at least have some familiarity. I think that's something that's lacking. I mean, that was kind of a fear of mine at the beginning. It was like I don't want to see code, but I think that it's important to be comfortable with it.
That's actually an amazing piece of advice, Eytan. I think it's a gem. It really is, and I think that despite what you say, you are a programmer, and we're all programmers. We're just not paid accordingly. It's we got to work that out somehow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the end, like, what is a programmer, right? It's someone who is writing a script for a computer to read. And the question is, like, how do we make that as, like I was saying at the beginning, as comfortable and as accessible to anybody who wants to do it? Today, it's not quite there yet, but, we're getting there.
Okay. Well, Eytan, listen, thanks. This has been a pleasure. I miss you dearly. Seriously, I really do.
Miss you too, man.
And I want to congratulate you on your upcoming wedding and wish you guys the best.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know, who knows what if it's even going to happen.
Well, it'll
now
happen.
with COVID.
Something's going to happen.
And
I
want to invite you to stick around our Discord channel. We're on Discord right now answering questions. Some people might have questions for you about Elli Q, about Intuition Robotics. If you want to stick around, that'd be great. Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. See you anytime.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Okay, that was Eytan Weinstein.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing guest, Eytan. We miss you, buddy. We miss you. He's getting married soon, you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
Making the mistake.
Making the mistake. I tried warning him for years.
You going to the wedding?
No, actually, this is not many people know this, but I orchestrated this whole coronavirus thing to get out of going to his wedding.
Ah.
I took it a little too far, I think.
Yes, you did.
But listen, he's not having a public wedding anymore, so it was effective. Okay, so should we get Maaike on the line now and talk to Maaike?
Let me try something.
Let's do that.
I want to add a switch.
What will be the name of the new device?
New lamp.
You should call it Steve.
Steve.
And which switch controls Steve?
S2.
Done. Your new device, Steve, is now connected to switch S2. Do you want to add another device or timer?
I want to add a timer.
All right then.
And etc. etc.
That's amazing. Good stuff, man.
Works. Yeah, you can test it, by the way. You go to the CoCoHub. We'll enable them today for public use. And try it.
Yeah. So a-i.com and just go on there and test it.
Or CoCoHub.ai.
CoCoHub.ai, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so next we're going to bring up Maaike, our good friend Maaike,
Right.
conversation designer. Okay, can we get her on the, all right. Yaki, we're back, and we have one of our dear friends, a special guest, Maaike from Convo Cat.
Maaike!
I'm not even going to try and pronounce her last name.
Groningen.
There's actually a familiar part in it. It ends in gen.
Groningen.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Groningen.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I appreciate that. We love having you, and we love the discussions on Discord and everything. So, Maaike, you're a conversation designer, but how did you get into conversation design? Let's talk about your journey to the world of conversation design.
I guess I started designing my own conversations as soon as I could talk, actually. But I think you're not hinting at that. But no, I'm actually a linguist by origin. I studied phonology, which is the study, the science of sound in speech, and how sound is organized. But I actually didn't end up working in that field. Instead, I became a technical writer. So I didn't do anything with voice, with speech for the last 20 years until 2 years ago already. I went to this chatbot conference, and there I discovered this whole new and completely amazing world of conversational design. And I thought, wow, that's me. So yeah, that's a bit my journey in a nutshell, I guess. I don't know how much time we have, but...
We have enough. We have all the time in the world. Yaki and I are not going anywhere. I know we said 5 minutes, but we're going to let this go for hours. So I hope you have enough material prepared for hours of... So, Maaike, you told me you were working on something, on a skill for the Google language skills, understanding Dutch. Could you walk me through a little bit about what you're doing in that field?
Actually, Google Assistant does understand Dutch to a certain extent. And my hobby is actually to make sure that all the funny Dutch names are kind of, well understood by Google Assistant. For instance, if I want Google to understand my name, Maaike, which is spelled M-A-A-I-K-E, I actually have to write it as M-I-C-A for the American assistant in order to make sense of it and interpret it as Maaike. So there's a lot of challenges.
You mean for voice applications mostly, right? For voice applications.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that a lot of people they get in trouble getting their invocations right. Especially if you've got like a Dutch name and you want to be on an American or English voice assistant or the other way around. It's quite a challenge to get your name recognized by the assistant. Yeah.
I once saw a video of an Australian guy trying to get into his own home with a voice activated system. He didn't get home.
Yeah, it's interesting also to see that even though most voice assistants claim to understand English, you can always ask yourself, what English do they understand? Because there's so many, not only different languages in English, like American, Australian, but also the accents. I mean, the Scottish, notably, they are not very big fans of voice assistants because, well, nobody so that's a really interesting science on how to actually get a voice assistant so diverse that it can understand everybody in any language and in any gender even. Yeah.
Well, we're still working on it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And you recently also wrote a component and created a component for the CoCoHub.
Your first component.
You're one of the first ones. You're one of the first people to create a component, and it's hopefully going to be available on the CoCoHub soon. And walk us through this component. This was something that you made specifically because of people working from home.
Yes, it's because we're not allowed to say the C word on our voice assistants, and I still wanted to pay some attention to what's happening. I thought, well, why not write something about something that a lot of us experience nowadays? You're working from home. Everybody's working from home. You have to start your day, and you're like, I don't know, I don't really feel like working. So I was kind of imagining what AnnA would say in that case and how she would actually, get you to kind of in the mood for starting your job anyway. And I mean, I guess the answers are like only AnnA could give them, because she's like, oh yeah. Are you wearing pants?
So you took AnnA basically as a prototype of the calling bot. It's like you designed a piece of conversation that AnnA currently does not have, and hopefully she will embrace this component and use it when the time arises in her next conversation.
Or any other developer can take the same structure of conversation that you built, change it, customize it to match their voice, and add the same conversation but slightly different. But you know what? We're speaking in theory here. Why don't we just ask her to go through the component? Do you want to do that?
Is she in there? Oh, that would be wonderful.
Let's see if we can get it to work. I'm not making any promises. We might get that banana song again. Alexa, AnnA banana.
You already have bananas on your shopping list. Would you still like to add banana?
Alexa, AnnA banana.
Hello, darling. I'm glad you stopped by.
Working from home.
No sweat, no glory. So, you working from home these days like the rest of humanity?
Yes, unfortunately.
I really like to work in the peace and quiet of home, but only if no one else is there. Don't you just hate it when people talk to you all the time? How can you focus when people ask you impossible questions? What's the meaning of life? Tell me about Shakespeare? Help me with this. Help me with that. Blah blah blah. Why don't you just give me some peace and quiet for once? So I have to ask, did you take a shower today?
No.
Oh well, you don't need a shower if you're not going anywhere. Did you know that when you take a shower in space, you have to press water against your body and vacuum it off? Of course you did. Now, be honest, do you dress up when you work at home?
Pajamas mostly, or sweatpants.
Pajama comes from Hindi. It means leg coverage. Most people don't know that. Now you do. Okay, last question, and be honest. Are you trying to avoid doing something with your life by nagging me instead?
You got me there.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm always happy to talk to you. And it's not like I have a choice. It's my duty to be a companion. It's what I was made for. Now that we worked that through, why don't you get back to work and or whatever else you do and show the world your genius? I'll stop bothering you. Carpe diem, human.
Okay, stop, Alexa. Alexa, stop.
Wow.
Those are two main differences between chatbots, like moi
Alexa,
and
stop.
There was a problem communicating with the requested skill.
Yeah, okay.
So I have to say, I'm going to wait for Yaki's.
First of all, it's wonderful, it's hilarious, it's funny. From every point of view, except from an engineering point of view. Engineering-wise, you have to cut your responses into half their size, more or less.
Yeah, I recognize.
You can easily let the user interject a sentence,
True, absolutely.
and it doesn't really matter what he says. Really.
Thank you. And that's
Most of the conversations that I hold, I don't listen for what people say to me. I just say my piece. Most people.
Are you actually generalizing that to the general population?
Like I'm doing now, or sometimes they don't wait, but they just spit it out. It's the human way of communicating. So I think one of the lessons which just creeps in here is if you have a long thing to say, a long response, cut it into 2, into 3. Ignore everything the user says in between, unless it's a scream for help, you are boring me or something. But otherwise, whatever he says can be ignored totally. You can look for a word, a specific prompt from him, but otherwise, it's not a crime to give a response, wait for something, disregard it, and continue the response.
And I'm going to add my 2 cents, Maaike. From a personality point of view, I think you nailed AnnA, and of course I edited it a bit. It's not the exact text that you sent, but you got her voice down perfectly, and so it's an amazing component. So great job on that.
It's actually the first time that I hear it in sound, and Yaki, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. And I think one of the things that I really missed in developing the component was actually having the oral feedback, because I wrote it, but now that I hear it, I can hear your point exactly. So that's definitely version 2. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this is that it's the actual component-based writing that's involved here, because that's what I've been doing for most of my career as a tech writer as well. I worked in aviation, and I had for instance, emergency procedures for Schiphol Tower. There's 70 different controllers, functions, and they are kind of distributed against 5 function groups. And they all need the same procedure, but slightly different, so that it's exactly tailored to their function and their need. So you don't write full copy there. You write little components that you can reuse, that you can kind of combine. Some of them are generic, some are more specific. And it's the exact thing that you need for a chatbot as well. So when I heard about you guys doing conversational components, I was like, yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, Maaike participated, I think, in all of the events that we held.
She was at the hackathon, the Toby hackathon that we just had in Düsseldorf, and she had an amazing. They had an amazing project for that. It was
I remember.
Do you remember the one with the saving the rainforest? That was a good one.
With the donations. Listen, Maaike, one more word of advice. You are in Holland, and this text is in English. What I suggest, that you take the component once it's posted on the hub, which is going to be in the next day or 2, and you take it, you customize it to Dutch.
Oh yeah, definitely. The only thing.
And then you have to find 1 or 2 or 3 Dutch hosts besides AnnA, who is in English, and then you can test it also in another language.
Sounds like a cool idea, definitely.
Your home market. It will be easy for you to pick one of the bots that you know and just hook it up.
It's one of the things I love about Yaki. He always gives you homework to do when you talk to him. So
you have your homework
now. You thought you were just a guest on the talk show, but you actually have homework now, Maaike. So, Maaike, this has been a pleasure. I hope you keep on making components. I would love to see more components, both for AnnA and for everybody else on the hub. And I know we won't be able to see each other at any of these events at any time soon, but Maaike is on our Discord channel, and she is,
And she will answer questions if anyone.
For us, actually, I think at this point, Maaike knows more about it than we do. So.
No, I'm saying the Discord channel. You can pose the questions to Maaike as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So ask Maaike the questions. Ask her exactly. I get it now. I'm a little slow on the uptake.
It's okay.
So.
Thank you, Maaike.
Maaike, thank you so much.
Thank you, Yaki. Thank you, Jason. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the future.
Yes, in
Bye-bye.
the future. Bye-bye.
Bye. I want to set a timer for 9 o'clock.
Do you want to set the timer for Switch?
Yes. 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 Yes.
At what time do you want me to turn on switch?
Nine a.m. 9 a.m.
You can turn things on at 9
Switch
a.m.
will be
Yaki?
turned on every day on 9 o'clock. Do you also want to set a time to turn it off?
Yes.
At what time do you want me to turn off switch?
10 o'clock.
Switch will be turned off every day at 10 o'clock. Do you want to add another device or timer?
No, thank you. Bye-bye. I'm really apologizing for this voice interface.
Never apologize.
I will try to ask Google to perform better next time. Okay?
Okay.
Is it Google? What is it? It's Google, huh?
So this was a fun meetup. We got Eytan Weinstein here. We got Maaike. And we had 5. I mean, some of them were good. Some of them were mediocre. We're good, bad, and the ugly when it comes to tips. We talked to AnnA. We had.
Even a bad tip is something to learn from.
There's something to learn from, right? Yeah, and it's getting harder and harder. Part trois.
More things for good bots.
Yeah, it's gonna.
You know what? Let's keep doing it. Let's keep bringing 5 more and 5 more and 5 more until we get them.
I'm good with 5. Yeah, that's a good number.
No, but you have to add another 5 things that you need to do for a good bot.
Yeah.
It's gonna get harder and harder every
It's
time.
already hard at this point. You can see I'm
fantasy.
Fantasy. Yeah. It's a good one though, Yaki. Fantasy is good. That to me, if you're not into fantasy and sci-fi, then this isn't. You're not you shouldn't be a conversation designer. If you're not inspired by the sci-fi in the movies like Ex Machina and in these movies like Blade Runner, if you're not inspired by that, by her, then
some conversation designers come from a different angle.
I do, yeah.
We should have asked Maaike about that.
Maaike is a huge sci-fi fan. First of all, let me tell you that. Huge sci-fi fan. And most of the conversation, and I know you're a huge sci-fi fan as well, so is that a plane? It's so strange. I can hear a plane.
Yeah, it sounds like a small one.
A small one. It's weird because you don't hear planes anymore, Yaki. It's, yeah.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, everyone,
okay.
Listen, this has been so much fun for me. Yaki, did you have a good time?
Yeah, I told you already before. Once a month is a little...
Too much or too little?
Too little.
You think so? Because last time, a lot of the people were saying they wanted more Yaki and less Jason. So I tried
to... Nobody said that.
Sam Ursu, if you're listening, he was very adamant. Sam was very adamant about having more Yaki and less Jason.
He was picking on you.
He was picking on me. Yeah. He said we looked kind of grungy.
Yeah, the color saturation in the picture was a little off.
Yeah.
Maybe better this time.
Hopefully better this time.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to have another meetup next month in May. And we encourage you to join us live on Discord, where we're going to be...
more active than before.
More active than before. We're going to be talking about just, everything on Discord. Posting funny GIFs, memes, and you name it. We'll be doing it on Discord.
But you have to cooperate.
Yeah. So join us on Discord. This has been a blast, and... good luck designing conversations.